Well, I think China is being hurt extremely badly by the crisis. So is Japan. So are all the major exporting nations in Asia. They're being hit. There's a tremendous number of bankruptcies, a very high volume of unemployment, and a devastating blowback into the rural areas where most of the Chinese people live. But to come back to this question of the U.S. and the world, the danger now, in my view, is coming out of the IMF and more so the G20 meeting in London, is that they've agreed to a tremendous expansion in credit to the IMF, which effectively opens up the operation of a world currency. You have people like George Soros promoting this. You also have Lyndon LaRouche on the other side fiercely opposing this, clearly identifying that this is the beginning of the printing of a world currency by many nations. And if this leads to a serious drop in the dollar, then this crisis becomes effectively far, far worse and perhaps completely insoluble. I agree, we have to get a situation where we can get interest rates in the United States back up after putting the banks through this bankruptcy reorganization, so that we can make exceptions with low interest rates for major investments in infrastructure, public works, but otherwise where interest rates go back up and we fight against the opening of a global currency situation and the opening of a flip from the current deflation into hyperinflation, which would become uncontrollable.
All right, everybody's talking right now the financial crisis. When you happen to see any light at the end of the tunnel? We talked earlier like Tom Fullerton, economist at J.P. Morgan Chase from New York. We also talked to Robert Broska, chief economist at Fact and Opinion Economics. Well, let's take a look at what they had to say about when they happen to see any light at the end of this tunnel.
Okay, well, the fallout from the financial crisis is going to linger for any number of years, but I expect that the recession in the U.S. will be over by mid-year, and the recessions in other countries overseas will probably end, a quarter or so after the U.S. problem. But of course, the financial part of it is going to have lingering consequences for growth, and it's just the recession itself that should end around mid-year, and we should start to see better U.S. growth really toward the end of the year and the first half of next year. And I'm really fairly optimistic about the U.S. economy. And as for Europe, continental Europe is showing signs of bottoming out, but the UK is still seeing very difficult signs for growth, and its recovery may be extended.
Predicting the end of the current financial crisis is very difficult because this is a balance sheet recession. And as was seen in the 1930s in the United States and the 1990s in Japan, balance sheet recessions, with all of the financial upheavals that they entail, can last several years at a time. I'm guardedly optimistic that the current recession will come to an end somewhere during the latter part of 2009 or the early part of 2010. But in the interest of full disclosure, because this is a balance sheet recession, it may last for several quarters beyond those dates.
Max, you tell us when.
Asking those economists to give their opinion is like asking Osama bin Laden to design new office buildings. They are completely corrupted by the system. They're neoliberal, Washington consensus bagmen. And if you listen to me for the past 3 years, I've been giving you the straight dope. I told you quite clearly that this was a case of fraud, that the what they call a balance sheet crisis, to be more honest, it's a fraud crisis. They stole hundreds of billions of dollars. They confiscated this wealth. They left this collapsing shell of an economy, and now they're saying, oh, it's a balance sheet crisis. Again, that's like saying the Twin Towers had an infrastructure crisis after the collapse. These guys are absolutely shameless. And I agree with your guest that the answer is to raise interest rates, because only after you raise interest rates are you going to attract capital. And after all, you can't have capitalism without capital. And capital is created through savings, not through borrowing and consuming. That's not how you create capital. That's not the basis of capitalism. This is a consumer gulag state in the United States. So they live like ducks on a foie gras farm where they just eat themselves into oblivion, and it's disgusting.
Well, speaking of capitalism, New York Times goes, capitalism after the fall. And the article goes, the recession will end and no one is marking the calendar, least of all President Obama. And it goes, but the president is hinting at an audacious ambition as he waits for that inevitable, if distant day. A redefinition of American capitalism. Do you see that coming, Paul?
Well, that depends on what the current administration can be organized to do along the lines of, I mean, you can talk about what the Roosevelt administration did in the New Deal as having redefined American capitalism, because it actually created qualitatively new institutions of social insurance, as well as qualitatively new types of economic infrastructure in the United States, which were essential in preparing it to fight the Second World War and for the progress which, industrial progress which followed. So this can be done again. Fundamentally, what we're going to have to do is to invest in such a way as to reverse 30 years of deindustrialization.
All right.
Of our
Unfortunately,
economies.
Paul, we're out of time. Our thanks to Paul and Max, both joining us. Max from Paris, a financial journalist, and MaxKeiser.com, CEO of PirateMyFilm.com. From Washington, we're joined by Paul Gallagher, economics editor and executive intelligence review magazine. And of course, thank you for watching.